welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving deep into the hard science and the very real human reality of Mounjaro compared to traditional diet and exercise. You know, the whole landscape of obesity management is shifting at lightning speed right now, and the headlines are literally everywhere. But if we look past all that hype, what's actually happening inside our bodies when we pit these brand new pharmaceutical tools against decades of conventional weight loss wisdom? Let's find out.
To really ground this, let's start with a wild contrast from a real Reddit user, which I think perfectly nails the intense, everyday frustration of traditional diets versus the almost unspoken ease of being on Mounjaro. This user tracked a strict 3-month attempt. We're talking 1,200 calories a day and rigorous treadmill walking, and their total loss? Just 6 pounds. But a year later, on a low dose of Mounjaro, their appetite was fundamentally altered. This one story really highlights a massive shift. It's the difference between fighting your biology and medically altering it. And honestly, that sets up the core question of our explainer today. Is Mounjaro really the magic wand we've all been waiting for? Does it completely replace the need for traditional methods, or do they actually need each other to work? We hear so much about these spectacular weight loss numbers, but we absolutely have to look closer at what kind of weight is actually being lost, how sustainable the whole process is, and the physical toll it takes on the body. So here's how we're going to break this all down today. First, the weight loss struggle. Second, how Mounjaro changes everything. Third, Mounjaro versus traditional methods. Fourth, the hidden muscle risk. And finally, the ultimate weight loss combo. All right, let's jump right into part 1, the weight loss struggle, and why traditional methods so often fail. You know, people always say failing a diet is just a matter of willpower. But that's a massive misconception. Traditional methods trigger metabolic adaptations, where your body literally fights back. To lose weight conventionally, clinical guidelines say you need a 500 to 750 daily calorie deficit. But as the data from obesity research clearly shows, doing this causes your hunger hormones to spike, while your satiety hormones, the ones that tell your brain you're full, actually drop. On top of that, your energy expenditure declines out of proportion to the weight you've lost. Basically, your body thinks it's starving and slams the brakes on your metabolism to protect you. This biological pushback is exactly why patients so often regain a third of their lost weight within just a year. Which brings us to part 2. How Mounjaro changes everything. So Mounjaro chemically bridges that exact gap where human willpower usually taps out because it targets the biological pushback we just talked about. Unlike traditional methods that demand a huge psychological toll at a heavy behavioral burden, Mounjaro, which is scientifically known as tirzepatide, acts on a purely biological level. It doesn't rely on you agonizing over eating less. Instead, it mimics 2 distinct hormones in your body, GLP-1 and GIP. By activating both of those hormone receptors, it enhances your insulin production, decreases glucagon secretion, and drastically slows down gastric emptying. Simply put, you feel fuller faster and you stay fuller way longer. It basically chemically engineers the caloric deficit that traditional dieters have to fight for every single day. And this brings an incredible psychological benefit. By targeting the brain's appetite-regulating pathways, Mounjaro quiets down what clinicians call food noise. If you haven't heard that term, food noise refers to those persistent, intrusive thoughts about your next meal that can just totally dominate your day. Dietitians point out that reducing this noise isn't about willpower at all. It's about helping someone feel adequately nourished on a neurological level. It offers immense psychological relief. Let's move on to part 3, Mounjaro versus traditional methods, and look at the hard data. We really need to put traditional methods head-to-head against this new pharmaceutical tool because the numbers in the clinical trials are genuinely paradigm-shifting. When we look at the studies, traditional intensive lifestyle interventions alone usually yield about a 5 to 8% weight reduction on average. Previous milestone medications, like semaglutide, which you probably know as Wegovy or Ozempic, pushed that up to about 15%. But in the SURMOUNT-1 trials, patients taking Mounjaro, combined with just brief lifestyle counseling, hit a staggering 20.9% baseline weight reduction over 72 weeks. And it gets even more staggering. In the SURMOUNT-3 phase 3 trial, researchers tested a sequential approach. They started participants with a 12-week intensive lifestyle intervention, diet, exercise, behavioral counseling, and then they added tirzepatide. The result, a massive 24.3% cumulative reduction in body weight. To put that into perspective, that magnitude of weight loss is practically what patients typically see a full year after a surgical sleeve gastrectomy. It's wild. But wait, let's look at part 4, the hidden muscle risk and the biological consequences. Here is the crucial catch. While the weight loss is highly effective, Mounjaro has very real and sometimes severe biological consequences that we absolutely cannot ignore. Rapid weight loss dramatically increases your predictive score for sarcopenia. That's the accelerated loss of skeletal muscle mass and strength. Clinical nutrition data shows that when you lose weight too fast without intervention, the predictive score for sarcopenia can jump from 8% to 32% within a single year. This means you aren't just losing fat, you are literally starving your vital muscle tissue, which can ultimately lead to frailty and a permanently damaged metabolism. In fact, the research clearly shows that a shocking 20 to 40% of the total weight lost on Mounjaro and similar GLP-1 medications is actually lean tissue. Now, there's some preliminary evidence that the GIP component in Mounjaro might offer slightly better muscle preservation than older drugs, but any extreme calorie deficit is going to accelerate muscle breakdown. And if you lose muscle, your resting metabolic rate just plummets, making future weight regain almost inevitable. And then there's the physical toll on your gut. In the SURMOUNT-3 clinical trials, adverse events were highly prevalent. We're talking nearly 40% of patients experiencing nausea, 31% had diarrhea, and 23% suffered from constipation. Mounjaro profoundly disrupts the normal function of your digestive tract to make you feel full, and well, that disruption comes with some serious, uncomfortable side effects. Plus, we have to talk about what happens when you stop. Mounjaro doesn't cure obesity, right? It manages it. If you stop the medication, those disrupted pathways just return to normal. The food noise comes roaring back, your blood sugars swing, and rapid rebound weight gain is highly likely. Actually, one study showed that participants who stopped tirzepatide regained 14% of their body weight within just months. So this brings us to part 5, the ultimate weight loss combo, our synthesis for success. This guides us perfectly to our main takeaway, the realization that Mounjaro is a biological assist. It is not a magic wand. You can't just outsource your health entirely to a weekly injection. To safely utilize Mounjaro and protect your lean muscle mass, you must intensely apply the very traditional methods we discussed at the start. The clinical guidelines are super explicit here. You need to consume 1.2 to 1.5 grams of high-quality protein per kilogram of body weight daily. You've got to engage in resistance training 2 to 3 times a week to signal to your body to keep its muscle. And you must strictly moderate the pace of your weight loss to just 1 to 2 pounds per week after that first month. Basically, the medication handles the appetite and the hormones, but you have to handle the nutrition and the physical strengthening. I'll leave you with this final thought. Mounjaro provides the biological quiet we need to finally build healthy habits without fighting our own starving brains. But as science grants us these incredibly powerful metabolic tools, are we individually ready to commit to the traditional heavy lifting required to actually maintain our strength and our health? The data tells us the medicine alone isn't enough. It's the combination of cutting-edge science and fundamental human effort that truly transforms us. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.